the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week. And welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week. I am your host, Joshua. And our question for today is: how do you challenge outdated systems in niche markets so you can unlock hidden potentials or hidden opportunities, whichever industries you are? Well, we are going to attempt to answer that question today with our guest, Charles Denson. Charles Denson is a lifetime entrepreneur. His company, Gil Denson and Company, helps thousands of Texan homeowners and businesses reduce their property taxes annually, representing 10 billion plus dollars in property tax value across the state of Texas. Charles constantly challenges old ways of thinking, and he has brought modern marketing operations and customer service to an existing niche market of property tax consulting firms. Gil Denson and Company quickly has become an industry leader in Texas, and today Charles is going to share his stories, insights, and perspective on how he has made this possible. Charles, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. Thank you for being on here. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. It's here Friday evening and a long week of property tax consulting, but I'm here to help other entrepreneurs in any way I can.
Absolutely, and we would love to dig into that and find all the inspiration and all the motivation that what it took for you guys to be where you are right now. But before we get there, Charles, I love starting this show this way all the time. In that, have you always known you were going to be a property tax consultant? Did you always know as a child, like growing up, any pivotal moments and experiences in your life that led you to the property industry, basically? What inspired you to start Gil Denson and Company? But more importantly, what led you to this path? What is the story of Charles Denson?
Sure. Well, no, as a young person, I did not even know what property taxes were. So I have not always aspired to do property taxes. However, I am very passionate about it. I think I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I've never had a corporate job.
Mhm,
I went to the University of Texas in Austin for
mhm,
college, and I got involved in real estate about midway through,
mhm,
and I liked that taste of going out and eating what you kill. Um,
mhm,
and I became the top salesperson and actually met my business partners who I run our company with now, and I've worked with for 10 years now.
mhm.
Um, Morgan and Richie Gill, their husband and wife, and so I worked for them, and they're a few years older than me, and we've started a few companies now. But this has been our primary and only business since 2019.
Mhm.
So we're super passionate about property taxes now. But did I expect to be in property taxes a long time ago? No.
Well, Charles, of course, it's quite the journey and the path as well. And property tax, I mean, first of all, tax in the first place. No one really goes like, "Ooh, I'm gonna be a tax man." I'm gonna like, I'm so excited to learn tax. It's never a glamorous kind of deal, right? But you brought modern marketing, you brought operations, you brought this new perspective in your property tax consulting, and it is an industry that's been around for decades, and particularly tax has been around for since our existence, since society ever existed, and that's why I feel like people are always averse when it comes to learning taxes. But you've brought this modern way of thinking into it. Can you share some strategies or specific innovations that you feel set you apart, that have set Guild, Denton and Company apart from traditional tax firms?
Yeah, for sure. So I think, the angle that we came at it at as, it's more of a real estate type of industry. The
Mhm,
tax code is extremely complicated and you have to
mhm,
be an expert in that. So we were already doing tax work for our own properties, and
Right.
we realized that it was a huge opportunity to
Mhm,
help
mhm,
our clients already.
mhm,
And that's when we were inspired to start the company.
mhm,
Um, and we looked at kind of, who was servicing uh, commercial properties and even residential properties in our industry. And we were kind of taken back that there wasn't firms that, you could um, feel real good about when you go try to find them online. I think there's
mhm,
more now. There's more competition now, but at the time, the websites looked like they were made in 1999.
mhm,
It was hard to get a hold of people, and we're like, I think we really have a niche here that we could help a lot of property owners.
mhm,
So the first thing was actually, going in and having that modern approach to online marketing. Um, a lot of companies at the time were sending, mail postcards, and they still kind of do. But I think there's a lot of opportunity online. The online platforms are now our, our marketplace. So, back 5 years ago, Facebook was huge.
yep.
And then Facebook changed a little bit. Now, other platforms are big. So, kind of understanding that, I think we got into an industry with some older players, and we just had a fresh lens on it. I'm 31 years old.
Mhm,
At
mhm.
the time, I was 25, 26. So kind of had a different angle at it to
Right,
be more
right,
modern.
precisely. And I think this is where, like having that fresh perspective, like new modern perspective will really help you kind of elevate, especially where you are now. Talk to me a little bit about property tax, and property tax industry as a whole. What what are the biggest challenges that you've seen the first time you came in, and trying to change everything, really trying to revolutionize property tax consulting and entering that market very fresh? How have you What did you had to do, and what kind of mindset did you have to in order to overcome these and achieve success?
Yeah, so the first thing I had to do is surround myself with actual experts. So I was training
Mhm,
to become an expert, but
mhm,
I surrounded myself with a few guys that have been doing this
mhm,
for 20 years. So going in, our company specifically, what we do is we challenge the county tax appraisals for properties. So each year in Texas, it's a huge deal. It's different than most states. They reappraise the property every year. And
mhm,
so as a property owner, it's your right and your obligation really to go in and challenge that. So if they say your
mhm,
property is worth $1 million, it may be worth 800,000, and you need to challenge that and pay less tax. It's just a
mhm,
tax appraisal, and it's
mhm,
the second highest expense outside of your mortgage.
mhm,
And so you look at commercial properties; they pay hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in property tax per year.
mhm,
Um, but even a standard homeowner pays 15 grand a year in
mhm,
property tax. So
mhm,
our
mhm.
firm, what we do is we go in and we do a very detailed type of appraisal to go in and
Right.
attend hearings against the county. So, as we started this company, we had done this at a small scale, representing our own properties, going through understanding the basics. But I knew when we started our company is, hey, we're really good at operations and marketing and customer service, accounting, all the things that it takes to run a standard business. But we're going to bring in a few people that have been doing the actual hearings for 20 years, have them come over from reputable firms and take a shot with us as a young company.
Wow.
And they did. So
Wow.
that's how we started. And now we
Wow.
have a much bigger team of experts that have all still been doing it for 20 years. It's actually a requirement.
Wow, as well, this is quite the, you're pretty clear with what you wanted. You're pretty clear with how you were going to approach this. And again, you dub yourself, or you're called in your bio a lifetime entrepreneur. Um, and you said like you never wanted, probably never had a corporate job, never had a 9 to 5, never employed. You always knew you were going to be entrepreneur. I want to dig into this mindset a little bit more because you already
Sure.
understood going into the property tax industry, the market. You already knew you had a clear vision of what you needed to do right away. And I felt like this has been a mindset that's been with you for a very long time. For our audience and listeners out there, how what kind of mindset or values and principles did you have to carry on, or did you learn along the way that help equip you with this endeavor that you have today? And how can we practice that as entrepreneurs in our career and in our goals.
I don't think anyone's really um, equipped from being born of like how to deal with that. I think you got to know how to deal with chaos. So
There you
it's
go.
it's extremely difficult to start any business in any industry. But as long as you're comfortable working through the chaos and kind of welcoming those problems,
Hmm.
for me, I'm able to think through that and learn from problems and create systems. Um, so I think that's an absolute must because going into it, no, I did not know everything. I know I know a ton more now. We have a lot less problems now, um, but I don't think you can start a business and know what to expect. You know to expect chaos and then try to deal with it.
And that is quite the, how do you call this, the vigor or the kind of like a resilience that you have to build up going through, experiences. I don't think it's something that's built overnight. um in particular, when it comes to entrepreneurship, you have to have a different, what do you call this, a certain kind of mindset, right? Like being an entrepreneur, you have to have that kind of different fire in you because, like you said, you have to face a chaos, work through it, experience it, and then in your case, you actually built systems around it and solutions around it. Um, what were, I guess, a question I want to ask next is like, if you were to start over again, like what would be the things that you wish you knew before starting, any endeavor, before getting into entrepreneurship, before doing anything and all that? Uh, This is just for our audience and listeners, of course, to looking for that next step, that next exploration. If you were to do it all over again, what would be some values and some practices that you wish you would have known from the get go?
That's a great question, and actually, not a lot of people know this about my journey. Is I would say very singular focus. We actually started three companies at one time,
Wow, wow.
and it was right before COVID. And
Ooh.
we started the property tax business, we started an insurance business,
Mhm,
and we started a data business. The data business was kind of a unicorn type of idea. We shut it down after a few months. It
mhm,
didn't we didn't see the cash flow opportunity. We spent a ton of time, spent some money, not that much money on it, but we were doing that while we were starting the tax business.
mm.
We knew to
Wow.
cut that off quickly, so that was a
Okay,
good
okay.
decision.
Right.
The
Wow.
insurance business we hung on to for a few years, and we thought we could cross sell
Hmm.
commercial property owners to insurance, which we did.
Hmm.
It was a decent book of business. We actually ended up selling it last year,
Hmm.
or actually about a year and a half ago, and it was kind of just a distraction at the end of the day. Like I think if I would have done something different, would be stay very singular focused like I am now, like I've been doing for years. Um, Even before we sold it, I was full time
Hmm.
property tax. We kind of had a couple other people on our team run the insurance business, but if I could just continue like I do now, dump all my eggs into the property tax business, that's where the most reward is.
And Charles, talk to us a little bit about more systems, because that seems to be like where your advantage is, because you're talking about like you had these different decisions or different path that you wanted to take, but you, again, you made sound decisions of choosing which path that you felt like were best right now. Um, I'm thinking now that you got into property tax consulting, you focus a lot and you mentioned systems a lot. What were experiences down the line or throughout your time as an entrepreneur? What were the experiences that you picked up, and why systems? Like what do you feel like made you good at systems? And try to emphasize with our audience and listeners how important systems are.
Systems are paramount. Even if you don't think of yourself as a system person, you work within systems. So when you think of teams, everyone can do their job better and come to work when they know what to
Mhm,
expect. And that's what a
mhm,
system gets you. Also, for customers, it helps them know what to expect.
mhm.
So we designed a fully custom CRM when we started our business. It started out
Wow.
simple, right? Where
Wow.
you're putting in a name and a property and you're storing files, right? And then
Mhm,
you have your customer files, and then you have your consultant who goes to the county and they go take their files. The
mhm,
county gives you files, and then we send invoicing out of it. So it starts out very simple. but it's gotten very robust over time to be able to help easily like tell clients what's going on. So, for example, when we first started, uh, it's known in our industry where you sign up and you just never hear from a company again, and you say, okay, here's my tax reduction and pay your invoice. Well,
Mhm.
I challenged that because I started getting phone calls. This is our very first year, it's kind of our beta year. And they're like,
Mhm.
hey, when's my hearing, or what's going on with my case? Why haven't I heard from you? Well, I knew
Right.
to build a system around that. Let's design email templates, time drip them, any trigger, any kind of uh, status along the way, the client can be in the loop. So now we get tons of compliments like, thank y'all so much for being communicative. Y'all are awesome. But
Mhm.
I saw that kind of through the chaos, and I didn't know that going into it. I let the phone calls kind of come to me, but I fixed it quick.
Right, right, right.
And that's kind of the benefit of having a little bit of a beta year.
And well, the beta year is quite the highlight there. Of course, it's like kind of like a test, like getting your feet wet in the water. But more importantly is like learning on the fly, like learning quickly from it, because it's one thing to test everything, it's one thing to get started and learning from the chaos or wading through the chaos, but it's another thing to actually learn from it and quickly react in all these things. I guess that's my next question now, is like how do you quickly react to these things, and what kind of a mindset do you have to have when it comes to, okay, you face a chaos, you face a problem, we need to turn this around quickly. Was there any experiences in your life that you felt like where you picked that value from, where you picked that principle from? How do you,
Yeah.
any stories actually that might stand out to you? Anything you can share to us?
So my first venture out of college was actually, so I was a real estate like agent in college, and then
Mhm.
Richie Gill brought me on to sell investment properties where we would also go and get the tenants. And
Mm,
so we had, my role included some oversight of the property management and some
right.
of the bigger projects that we were launching. I was very involved because we were a lean team. And I think the chaos is like when it would rain and the
Mhm.
roof would start leaking, and I would get calls to my cell phone at all times a day of maintenance calls. Even though we had like maintenance people, it still would come through me. And it was just it was a crash course in like people management, um,
Mhm.
absolute chaos, but making sure you're professional and fixing things quickly. At the time, I didn't know that that was training me for something bigger to hopefully build,
Right.
a much bigger organization.
Hmm. And it's like
Yeah.
it's crucial. It's crucial in any building, any entrepreneurship, any starting anything. I also want to talk about your sales experience, right? How do you separate being a salesperson to being an entrepreneur? I understand that you're very clear about what you say. You're very clear. Of course, it's people skills, like, is very essential. It's very crucial when it comes to any business and when it comes to any endeavor. Um, but how do you separate yourself? It's completely different hats, right? It's completely different roles, but both just as crucial when it comes to uh, starting everything or starting having an organization. In your case, Charles, you seem very clear, already know what it is that you've had quite the experience already as well. But how does this bleed into what you currently do, and how has it become natural? But how do you also separate being an entrepreneur or business owner to being a salesperson? And does it really overlap when it comes to when the time passes, basically? Oh,
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think sales is a stepping stone. Like a sales role is a stepping stone into being an entrepreneur, but having those
mm,
sales skills is critical to being an entrepreneur. You're selling someone on your team as a
mm,
leader at any given point. You're selling your customers to even get off the ground and start cash
mm,
flowing.
mm,
So, I had top notch sales skills, but I knew that I wanted to do something more. Um,
right.
it's so much different than just selling and being done. Like I'm responsible for the whole chain of command.
Mm,
So a lot of my job when I am selling is really just setting expectations. I
right.
don't want I don't want to sign a customer just to sign a customer. I
Right.
want to help set those expectations because I'm going to be the one, or someone else on my team is going to be the one to deal with blowback if we don't set those expectations right. So I think it's the end of the sales kind of um, cycle when you start becoming the business owner, but
The
you're still
end of
always selling.
I love that perspective. It's the end of the sales cycle when you become a business owner because, again, you're selling to your team. You're trying to get them to buy into your vision as well. That's very important as a business owner. To your customer, in the customer side, you are also basically selling your service and selling how good this what you do and what you can do for them. In the case of what in the case of Charles Gill and Denton, what you guys have done is you have actually were able in 2022, 2022, you were able to lower what property taxes for 83% of your clients. It's quite a number, and talk to us a little bit about this number and talk to us about the success that went in behind this and what it took. And how do you see yourself, you guys, moving forward? What's the year looking like for you so far?
Yeah, it's a very strong year. So it's a real estate. In most areas, it's a little bit of a real estate decline, and Texas has
Mhm,
been very
mhm,
hot for a few years. So
mhm,
it's actually the most important time of year for our kind of business.
mhm,
Um, I would say, the way you accomplish that is everyone on my team works everyone on my team works a lot. So
wow.
it's, lots of 16, 18-hour days,
Mhm,
especially in the season. I had a meeting with one of my consultants today. She said she's been sleeping 3 hours a night, and she sounds fantastic.
wow.
It's just what it takes. It's the sacrifice that it takes to get there, and that's everyone on the team. That's data. That's data team. That's analysts. That's accounting. That's the leadership. That's
Mhm,
the consultants. Um, and I think over time you do that for 5 years, there's going to be good results that happen and reflects in our results. When you do go save 8 out of 10 of your customers and deliver for your customers, they can go
wow.
out into the marketplace and refer your name and your brand. It's my name on the company. It's Richie and Morgan's name on the company. They can, um, you know, they can proudly go into the community and say, "Hey, my property taxes are lower." But I think that goes for any kind of product or service. I don't really know a ton about product businesses because I've been on the service side, but
Mhm.
when you are on the service side, your reputation is everything.
That is true. That is true, and it's quite important. But it's also, again, like you said, internal team is really wanting that and having the right people, working hard, and really wanting sharing the same vision that your company has. Um, Charles, you've given us a lot of advice already. When it comes to aspiring entrepreneurs, and based on your experience, um, what is one thing that you would give to our entrepreneurs looking to enter and innovate any existing niche market? Like earlier, we talked about how you revolutionized and how you were bringing in something new to the property tax consulting market. What advice would you give to anybody or any entrepreneur entering a market and trying to change that market? What advice would you give them?
I would do a lot of research on what the other companies in the space are doing and how
Mhm,
can you do that a little bit differently. So we're talking about entering in a space that exists, right,
mhm,
Josh?
mhm,
Not
mhm.
something new,
Yes,
to clarify.
precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely.
So do a research, that we did a ton of research on what those other companies are doing, how they interact with customers, what they're offering, what do they look like, um, and really challenge kind of what you could do better. I want to say kind of 1B on that is, you can't really start a business unless you're willing to risk everything.
Oh,
I'm sure
interesting.
that's common by a lot of your guests, but I'm a
Mhm,
younger entrepreneur. You gotta put all your life savings on the line. I don't come from anything.
mhm,
Max out those credit cards, spend everything you have, and a lot of it is actually reflected in kind of your lifestyle. You got to kind of go into the bunker for a few years and to start something. I truly believe that. If you want a lifestyle of going out on the weekends and having fun, then I wouldn't start any business, whether it's a niche or it's a unicorn or anything like that.
interesting. And Charles, again, this is quite the clear cut. you know, perspective that you're offering us today, that you're sharing with us today, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I want to know now what it is that you see. What do you see Gail Denson and Company? What is the future? How is it looking like in the property tax consulting market? And if anything, what are the future aspirations of Charles Denson outside of
Yeah.
the property tax consulting? I would love to know. I'd love to know more about you, and how do you see the future moving forward?
Yeah. So, I mean, for our company, um, we are big in Texas. We're pretty well
Mhm.
known in Texas, but we want to go more nationwide with certain product lines or service lines, I should say. And
Mhm.
it's really about business personal property taxes. So pretty much, not a lot of people know this, but a lot of like every grocery store you go into or any store you go into, they pay property tax on those items that are in there. And
Mhm.
so you have to, as a business, declare what's in there at a given date, depending on when your state is, and then you go challenge it. So some of the biggest property tax firms in the country, that's a lot of the business they do. So we really want to, we already are in that space and we do some of that, but we want to really expand that to become a, $1 billion enterprise. Um,
Wow. How about for
as far as
Charles?
me,
Hmm.
yeah,
How about for you? Any personal aspirations?
yeah, yeah. For me, I think, you know, health health and fitness is huge. So
Number
I
one.
think, when I can be working out every day, it's better around my household. My wife likes me better when I'm
Mhm.
working out. I think it's an important meeting of the day, right? So I want to
Mhm.
always be like challenged, owning my own business. I hope I never have to make a resume again. I don't think I've made a
Oh,
resume since
wow.
college, and it's been
Wow.
10 years. So that's my goal. I would like to own multiple businesses, but I want to stay very focused on what's in front of me and run this business for a very long time.
And of course, health. I love that. That's the first thing you mentioned. Health is number one, Charles. And you have been quite, healthy in your success as well. And I'm pretty, that's pretty cool. That's something to look up to. That's something
I
to
could do a lot better.
Oh, yeah, we could all do a lot better in that field, Charles. That's, what I'm saying. Especially we're busy, we're grinding, we're hustling. Sometimes we forget our own health, but it's a great reminder, Charles. Thank you for sharing us that all of that and all that insight and perspective in the show today. I'd love to give you this opportunity. Where can we find you? Where can we learn more about you? Of course, the company, Gail Denton and Company. But you in particular, Charles, where are you most active in? Are you on Instagram, and the socials, LinkedIn? Where can we connect with Charles Denson?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, which I know sounds like an old man response, but I'm not. I'm not personally on like Instagram or
Mhm,
Facebook, but
mhm.
our company is very present online. You could always reach us through there if you're reaching out for business reasons. But if you want to connect with me with entrepreneurial, personal reasons, I'm very responsive on LinkedIn. Be happy to answer questions from people and help where I can.
Of course, and ladies and gentlemen, to our audience and listeners out there, just I welcome you all to visit the website and connect with Charles. I believe we are already connected on LinkedIn as well. We'll keep in touch
Yeah.
on there. Charles, one last thing, one last bit of wisdom that you're going to leave to our audience and listeners today. What would it be? Take us home.
I would say, if you're a young entrepreneur out there, or even if you're, midlife or old life and you want to start a business, it does not need to be the next Shark Tank idea.
Mm.
If you want to work, if you want to work really, really hard, you want to get into an industry that you know about, go do it.
Fantastic. Wow, Charleston, it's been quite again, the clear cut perspective and insight today. Thank you for sharing us your story, and thank you for sharing what you do with Charles Denton and Company. And it's I love it because it's quite I'm sure a lot of our audience and listeners are also listening and appreciating what you have given us and what you have shared to us today. Charles, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh. See you soon.
Fantastic to all our audience and listeners out there. See you on the next one.
All right, so here's the thing, we try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.